So we visited the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail Interpretive Center, which was actually really cool. Really enjoyed our stay there. So Thomas Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and William Clark on an expedition up the Missouri River to explore North America and try to make it to the Pacific Ocean, which they ultimately did. They traveled up the Missouri River with a group of people to explore the route that they took. Um, and then they came to Great Falls in Montana, where they ran into a series of waterfalls. And so they had no way to get their canoes and craft up the river to continue westward. So they had to use a portage and basically haul everything manually. The people on the expedition took all the canoes out and pulled them, put wheels on them, and drug them up river around the waterfalls. And of course, they ended up meeting many Indian tribes and had to work closely with the Indians. And of course, Sacagawea, or Sacagawea, depending on how you want to pronounce it, was part of their group, became part of their group, and helped immensely with working with the Indians. And this is something in the museum there to show how much force it took to pull those and how far you could go, how many miles per day to transport those by pulling them. 10 miles a day. Of course, they ran into a lot of wildlife. I think it was the first exposure for Americans to grizzly bear. Yes, and several other animals which didn't have any other names. They had to name a lot of them as they met these species that they'd never seen before. But at first they thought the grizzly bear were myth until they ran into them and realized they were indeed as tough as the Indians told them that the bears were. And several times they would be chased by the bears and they'd try to hunt them, and they'd have to turn around and become the hunted sometimes. They weren't prepared for quite how aggressive some of the grizzlies were. And ultimately they made it over the Continental Divide. They made it, they switched from the Missouri River to the Columbia River and made it to the Pacific Ocean. And on their way back, Lewis and Clark, per Thomas Jefferson's instructions, actually split up to cover more ground and explore different areas. So they took different routes on the way back east. And ultimately they explored and mapped a lot of North America, large sections that we didn't really have a lot of information about. The new country, the United States of America, didn't know a lot about land that far west. And so this was the beginning of what would later be called Manifest Destiny, as the United States expanded into the nation that it is today. And here we see some of the series of 5 waterfalls that Lewis and Clark encountered. Obviously the dam, hydroelectric energy, has been added more recently, but as you can see, this is the direction that they would have come. And these waterfalls are substantial. It would have had more water flowing on them back then without the dam in place, depending on the time of the year. But not going to be easy getting canoes up there and equipment. So they basically had to go around, and that's what they did. There was a large copper smelter across the river from 1888 to 1980. Then we drove west of town to the Buffalo Jump State Park, where Indians had driven buffalo over a large cliff as part of their process to hunt them and use them for meat and everything else. This is the world's largest buffalo jump. Apparently they would infiltrate the buffalo herds and then essentially get them to follow them and stampede right over the cliff. So even if, as they approached the cliff, they saw the danger, they weren't able to stop in time, and the stampeding bison just drove them over the edge.
hear them. They're over there. There's prairie dogs over there. Tiny little prairie dogs. Yeah, it's a long way down for a bison to jump. There's a path down there. I think we'll stay up here.
Yeah, that's the path.
What do you think, Bear? Do you think we should stay up here? Good chat. It's a long way down. There's the visitor center.
Why did you jumping over it?
Success! Hunter landed in the swing. Sort of. Hunter down.